Let's get this episode up in the air and finish it and go to sleep. Which I assume if you're also a tired student, you can resonate.
Absolutely. I get it. Alright, let's make this episode count, and then you can get some well-deserved rest.
Alright. If you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, guys, make sure, well, don't make sure, but I would advise you do, because it's going to make more sense regarding what we're going to be talking about right now. So we left off talking about the middle mediastinum, and I wanted to ask you some questions about the pericardium, ChatGPT for instance, a bit about its anatomical relations.
Sure thing. The pericardium is a double-walled sac surrounding the heart. It has 2 layers, the fibrous pericardium, which is the outer layer, tough and protective, and the serous pericardium, which has a parietal layer lining the fibrous part and a visceral layer that covers the heart itself. Between these layers is the pericardial cavity, filled with fluid to reduce friction. Anatomically, it's located in the middle mediastinum, bordered by the sternum anteriorly, the lungs laterally, and the diaphragm inferiorly.
I want to talk a bit more about the anterior, posterior, and all of that.
Alright, let's break it down. Anteriorly, the pericardium is right behind the sternum and the cospal cartilages. Posteriorly, it lies in front of the esophagus and the descending aorta. The fibrous layer is also connected to the diaphragm below, anchoring the heart in place. So it's snugly positioned with these important structures around it.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Great, glad it's clicking for you.
Can you talk to me again about what the pericardial cavity is?
Of course. The pericardial cavity is a potential space between the parietal and visceral layers of the serous pericardium. It's filled with a small amount of serous fluid, which acts like a lubricant to reduce friction as the heart beats and moves within the sac.
So the serous pericardium has a parietal and visceral layer, and the pericardial cavity is in between.
Exactly. The parietal layer lines the fibrous pericardium, while the visceral layer hovers the heart itself.
Interesting.
The cavity between...
Let me ask you about the oblique and the transverse sinus now.
Sure. The oblique sinus is a space behind the heart, between the left atrium and the pericardium, allowing for movement of the left atrium. The transverse sinus is a passageway located above the heart, between the aorta and pulmonary trunk in front, and the superior vena cava behind.
Tell me more about this.
So, the oblique sinus is like a cul-de-sac behind the heart, formed by the reflection of the serous pericardium around the veins. It's useful during cardiac surgery to isolate structures. The transverse sinus is a tunnel-like passage, useful for surgical procedures as well, letting surgeons pass instruments behind the great vessels.
So, the oblique sinus is an inverted J-shaped reflection of the vena cava. The transverse sinus is a tunnel-shaped passage.
That's right. The oblique sinus is indeed like an inverted J, formed by the reflection around the vena cava and pulmonary veins. The transverse sinus, on the other hand, is like a tunnel between the outflow vessels of the heart. Both are important anatomical spaces for surgical access.
And what's the significance of these two things?
Clinically, these sinuses are crucial during heart surgery. The oblique sinus allows access to the posterior heart structures, while the transverse sinus is used to isolate and clamp major vessels.
And we also have an endocardium, epicardium, and myocardium.
Yes, exactly. The endocardium is the inner lining of the heart chambers. The myocardium is the thick muscular middle layer responsible for contractions. And the epicardium is the outermost layer, also known as the visceral layer of the serous pericardium. Glad you're with me.
Interesting.
heart's anatomy is full of fascinating details.
And we also can we mention some other structures? The trabecula carna, for instance, and the papillary muscles, perhaps, and the chordae tendina.
Sure. The papillary muscles are located in the ventricles and anchor the chordae tendinea, which are strong fibrous strings. These chordae tendinea prevent the atrioventricular valves from inverting during ventricular contraction, ensuring one-way blood flow.
Just 1 second, guys. And so, can you explain to me the trabecular carnea and the papillary muscles and the chordae tendina all together?
Sure. The trabeculae carnae are muscular ridges on the inner walls of the ventricles. Papillary muscles are specific projections from these walls, anchoring the chordae tendinea. These chordae attach to the valve leaflets, preventing prolapse by holding the valves shut during ventricular contraction.
I'm confused. What is this trabecular carnea? What is their job? All of these three I mentioned.
No worries. The trabeculae carnae help strengthen the ventricular walls and assist with efficient blood flow. Papillary muscles contract to keep the valves closed, while the chordae tendinea act like tethers, ensuring the valves don't invert.
And the papillary muscles?
Papillary muscles are crucial. They contract during ventricular systole, pulling on the chordae tendinea. This action helps keep the atrioventricular valves, like the mitral and tricuspid, from prolapsing into the atria.
What about the auricle? Do we have a left and right one?
Yes, exactly. The auricles are small ear-like pouches attached to the atria. The left auricle is part of the left atrium, and the right auricle is part of the right atrium. They help increase the atrial volume.
How do they do this?
The auricles act like small reservoirs. When the atria fill with blood, the auricles expand, allowing more blood to be held before pumping into the ventricles.
Okay, what about the cardiac skeleton?
The cardiac skeleton is a dense network of connective tissue that provides structural support for the heart. It forms rings around the heart valves, ensuring they maintain shape and function properly.
What are these rings then?
These rings, called annuli, surround the heart valves, like the mitral, tricuspid, aortic, and pulmonary valves.
I see. And we talked about the valves in other episodes. We should talk a bit about the coronary arteries.
Sure.
So we know that we have coronary arteries in the ascending aorta, right? And they supply the heart with blood.
Exactly. They branch off from the aorta's base, encircling the heart like a crown. They supply oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle.
How does the aortic sinus connect? And let's start with that.
The aortic sinus is the space just above the aortic valve. It contains the openings for the coronary arteries. When the heart relaxes, blood flows from the aorta into these arteries, ensuring the heart muscle gets oxygenated blood.
So where is the aortic sinus?
It's located at the root of the aorta, just above the aortic valve. There are typically 3 bulges there, and it's from these sinuses that the left and right coronary arteries emerge.
I'm confused, bro.
No worries. Picture the aorta as a big tube leaving the heart. Right at the top of the aortic valve, there are small pockets. Those are the aortic sinuses. The coronary arteries come out from these pockets to supply blood to the heart.
Got it now. And now what's the main branches of the right and left coronary artery?
The right coronary artery mainly branches into the right marginal artery and the posterior descending artery. The left coronary artery divides into the left anterior descending artery and the circumflex artery. Each branch supplies different heart regions.
So they both have a marginal artery.
Yes, they do. The right coronary artery has the right marginal artery, and the circumflex branch of the left coronary artery also has a marginal branch.
And the right has a posterior interventricular, and the left one has an anterior interventricular. But I wonder why this difference from left to right, why not the other way around?
That's due to how the coronary arteries develop and supply the heart. The left anterior descending artery, part of the left coronary, runs down the front, supplying most of the left ventricle. The right coronary artery's posterior interventricular branch supplies the back.
But what in the right and left coronary arteries as structure or location makes it efficient for this specific function? So going on the back or front?
Their placement ensures efficient oxygen delivery to the heart muscle. The left coronary artery covers more territory, supplying the left ventricle, which does most of the pumping. The right coronary artery primarily serves the right side and the heart's back. This division helps balance the workload.
Interesting. And we also have a circumflex artery and a sinoatrial artery. Can you explain their job too and how they relate?
Sure, the circumflex artery branches from the left coronary artery and supplies the left atrium and the side and back of the left ventricle. The sinoatrial artery, often a branch of the right coronary, supplies the sinoatrial node, which controls the heart's rhythm. So, they ensure both muscle and rhythm get proper blood flow.
Interesting. And we have right dominant and left coronary artery dominant. Can you explain this a bit?
Absolutely. Dominance refers to which coronary artery supplies the posterior descending artery. In right dominance, the right coronary artery supplies it. In left dominance, the circumflex artery does. Most people are right dominant, which can affect how blockages impact the heart.
Okay, let me ask about the cardiac vein too then.
Sure. The cardiac veins run alongside the coronary arteries, draining deoxygenated blood from the heart muscle. They mainly empty into the coronary sinus, which then returns blood to the right atrium.
So they empty to the coronary sinus.
Exactly. Most cardiac veins, like the great cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, and small cardiac vein, drain into the coronary sinus, which then opens into the right atrium.
I see. And then we have the great, the middle, the small, and the posterior.
Yes, exactly. Each of these veins drains blood from different heart regions. The great cardiac vein runs along the front, the middle at the back, and the small and posterior veins cover the right and lower parts.
Okay. And we also have a just a sec, sorry. We also have a fibrous skeleton. Can you explain how that helps?
No problem. The fibrous skeleton of the heart is a network of dense connective tissue. It provides structural support, anchors the heart valves, and insulates the atria from the ventricles, ensuring electrical signals travel properly.
Okay, can we talk a bit about the cardiac plexus?
Sure. The cardiac plexus is a network of nerves near the heart. It contains sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers, regulating heart rate and strength of contractions. It's like the heart's control center, balancing inputs from the body.
And we have a deep one and a superficial one?
Yes, exactly. The superficial cardiac plexus lies near the aortic arch, while the deep one is located near the tracheal bifurcation. They work together to coordinate heart functions.
And what's their differences?
The superficial plexus mainly influences the heart's surface and upper chambers, while the deep plexus has a broader reach, affecting the ventricles and conduction system. Both are essential for balance.
Interesting. And yeah, that's about it. Sorry guys for this rushed episode. I'm a bit tired and I want to finish what I had to do in the day, and I have. Yeah, tomorrow will be fresh with a new episode and hopefully I'll have more energy. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.